Hello, and welcome to You Write, the podcast where creativity meets community.
I'm Ray Ray.
And I'm Maddie Matt.
Each week on You Write, we challenge our listeners to write a story in just 30 minutes, using 3 of 5 randomly generated words.
It's a fun and fast-paced exercise to spark your imagination and get those creative juices flowing.
We'll read your submissions, offer feedback, and discuss the unique twists and turns of each story.
Whether you're an aspiring author or just love a good tale, You Write is your place to explore the endless possibilities of storytelling.
So grab a chisel and a stone slab, get comfy, and let's dive into this week's stories.
Nice. And remember, the only 2 limits are your imagination and 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, let's see what you got.
Let's see what you got.
So, how it do?
Good. It's good. I just now rode in off the trail.
Yeah. Still a little saddle sore.
I'm a little bit saddle sore.
Yeah.
I was out on the range for like 5 days, but I'm back now and ready to go. How
back home on the, well, range. I guess not the range.
Yeah, but kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
So how's it going with you?
Oh, it's good. It's still good.
Yeah?
Yeah, it has been especially busy at work.
Go on.
Oh, we deal in consumer electronics for people, and football season is always, it's always a mess.
Really?
Yeah.
Because more people want more stuff to watch football games or what?
Yeah, and I think because their kids are back in school, they're sitting around looking at this house like, what can I do to this place? Oh, I know. I can put a big old TV over here.
A big-ass telly.
A big-ass telly. And a big old surround sound stereo or a TV on patios. That's the new, like, that's all the rage.
That's all the rage.
TVs on patios.
Okay, how do you feel about that?
I am indifferent about them.
Would you like a TV on a patio?
No.
Why not?
If I had a different outdoor space, maybe I would consider it, but not for us.
Okay.
Seems, yeah. No, I would never do that. Would you put a TV?
I would, actually.
Would? Yeah.
Because I have a nice deck, as you're well aware.
Yes.
And
very
I
well.
would like to put a awning. What is it called? Like one of them wooden,
like a pergola?
thing. Yeah, like a pergola, but not with slats though.
Oh, so then it'd be more like a gazebo. No, maybe it's just a cover.
Yeah. Can we say awning?
Sure.
Okay. I like to put an awning. It's like an open covered porch.
Yeah.
I'd like to make it into an open cover porch because, well, for one thing, my housemates, they smoke. And well, when it's raining outside, that's kind of hard to do.
Right.
So they'd have a space where they could do that. And I like to be outside, but I also like to watch TV at night. But I like to do both. So I would like to be able to sit kind of outside and watch TV and have more shared time with humans.
Okay.
And also, I think my cats would love it.
Oh, they'd go nuts. You'd be outside all the time.
Oh, yeah.
What would they even do with themselves if you're just sitting out there all the time?
They would just be jubilant at all times.
Yeah. Oh, and you have a lot of shade back there too already, so it'd just be a cover from rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be perfect.
That would be perfect.
I want that.
Well, go get you one.
Okay.
I actually saw you can get, they're like cloth, like canvas. It's not exactly canvas. It's like a shade cloth that you can actually stretch out to like 2 poles. We were looking at doing that for our gardens. Oh. Because the sun is like too intense.
Well, we actually have one of those.
Do you?
Yeah. It's new.
Oh.
It's small, and they got it just so that they could smoke during the rain.
Huh.
Yeah. You know how smokers are.
Yeah.
They're unflappable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dedicated to their
craft.
Their vice. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
They will not be stopped. So I would actually like that.
And you could stretch it between that other building.
I could.
Like your,
that'd be cute.
Yeah, all the way across.
Or I could do like how they have in a lot of places in Europe. and the Middle East, where they have like in the kind of the narrow space between buildings where they have tables set up, they just have cloth just like draped.
Like loose cloth.
Yeah, it is.
Flapping in the wind.
Yeah, it's loose cloth and it's there for, protection from the elements.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to be outside all the time.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Know that it will blow away.
Okay.
Because it is so windy here.
It is.
If you, our listeners, do not know that, it is rather gusty in these parts.
We pay homage to the wind god.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're not going to go into that.
No, we're not. Yeah. That's another tale for another audience.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, I think that'd be super cool. Mm-hmm. And I also want to have those, like one of those rich person outdoor fireplaces.
Oh yeah, like a chimenea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a chimenea.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are fancy. I like chimeneas.
I love chimeneas.
Yeah. Makes way more sense, especially here, than an indoor fireplace.
True.
We're well acquainted again.
Yes.
So, what do you think of the stories?
Well, as usual, I loved them.
Mm-hmm. I thought you would say that.
Yes, I loved that most of them were continuations as well.
Yes, it seems like the week for continuations. I think we only had 2 stories that were not continuations.
At least one. Did we have a new writer?
No.
Okay.
No. All seasoned veterans of the show.
Okay, so just as a reminder, our prompt was a real recording of a wind chime.
It's actually 2 wind chimes.
2 wind chimes in concert.
Yes, in harmony.
And the words were, Matt?
The words were those words.
Those one words.
Those one words that we very carefully procured randomly.
Yes.
So those words that we definitely knew off the top of our head were young, judge, nomination, contrary, and employ.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to say a quick note about curating things.
Okay.
Randomly.
Random curating?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that sounds a little bit weird, right?
Almost like oxymoronic.
Right.
Is that how that would...
Yes, it does sound oxymoronic. And I wanted to just touch on this real quick because I read a lot of, dissertations simply because I have an editing side gig. And one of them was about the fallibility of categorizing things based on similarities. Just let that sink in for a second.
The fallibility.
The fallacy, not the fallibility, the fallacy.
The fallacy of categorizing things by what?
Similarity.
By similarity. Okay. The fallacy of categorizing things by similarity.
They're basically saying that is a wrong concept. Categorizing things by similarities is wrong. So I ask, isn't that kind of the definition of categorizing?
You can't categorize something if it doesn't share.
Bro, they wrote a dissertation about this.
What is the major? Is it like...
Oh, I forgot. Organizational management or something like that. I don't even know. But I'm like, okay.
Was their conclusion that my thesis doesn't make sense and you should ignore my whole dissertation?
It should have been, but I was literally the whole time, I was just like, I don't know if I'm a total dummy, but I cannot wrap my head around how you would categorize things not on similarities. Even if you're categorizing things on dissimilarities, that's still
a similarity
of dissimilarity.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, how? It's like a whole nother sense or concept that's just beyond my human brain.
Maybe it's strictly semantic and it's not categorizing things by similarity, but by attributes, and they just happen to overlap on some attributes. They're not similar. They just share attributes.
No, but shared attributes are similarities.
Right. That's why I'm saying it's all just semantics.
I don't know, but it was very upsetting because it went on and on about
upsetting.
Yeah, it went on and on about how just fucked up it was to categorize things based on similarities, like as though it was like a faux pas. And I'm just like,
then
guilty as charged.
How does anyone ever categorize anything ever again?
Yeah, exactly.
Post this dissertation.
Exactly.
I don't.
Listeners, I'd like for you to just chew on that and let me know your thoughts, because I, to this day, do not get it.
We expect your reports in the subreddit by next episode, please.
Please. That would be great. So,
my head hurts. My head.
I know. I'm already not feeling well after that conversation.
I'm so ill.
I'm sorry that I brought that up. It's just something that I've carried with me alone for many years.
That's how people have aneurysms. By
carrying that type of thing alone?
Yeah, that knowledge.
Years?
Yeah. You haven't expressed that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like it was time.
Yeah.
Okay, so who did we choose this week?
This week, we chose the story by ChillaxingYak.
Yay!
Yay!
All right, so I am going to read this story.
Well, all right. Let us have it.
Are we ready? Okay.
Yes.
All right, this is Shifts in Silence by ChillaxingYak. The room began closing in on me. The walker in me, it had begun to itch, crawling just beneath the surface. I could feel the heat growing in my skin. In the course of reading Dr. Egan's words, the once relaxed feeling had become coiled tight, ready to take over. Every muscle in my body was tense, fighting against the pull that haunted me for the past 20 years. It was worse in moments like this, when the world was still, when nothing moved. The quiet allowed it to creep closer to the surface. The morning light had intensified, stretching the thin shadows of the blinds across the walls in the small, sparsely furnished room, the letter lying like a lead weight on the floor, wrenching me back to a time I had fought long to forget. My chest felt tight, my breathing shallow. Then, the wind chimes outside, soft, melodic, began to pull me back from the brink. I strained getting out of my chair and pushed open the door, stepping onto the porch. The cold morning air biting at my skin. But it wasn't the air I needed. I needed the sound. The chimes rattled softly in the breeze, their familiar clinking filling the silence. In Skinwalker country, people kept wind chimes for a reason. So did I. I haven't had to go for a walk in a long time, but I could feel Egan's letter causing a dangerous rise in my stress hormones. People believe wind chimes keep things, creatures, away, scattering the dark forces that lurk in the shadows. It wasn't just an old wives' tale. The random, fractured sound of the chimes seemed to distract the blackness, stopping it from consuming everything. I knew this. I had felt it. The wind chimes tinkled softly, their melody brushing against the morning air. I clung to the sound, hoping it would settle the thoughts spiraling through my mind. The memories that letter had torn open. Rachel had always believed in those chimes. She'd said they could calm anything, even creatures we couldn't begin to understand. Her voice echoed in my head, clear as ever. They're drawn to it, like it speaks to them in a way we can't. The chime's melody carried me back to her, back to Plum Island. September 21st, 2002. I stood at the edge of the lab, watching Rachel as she moved between the enclosures, doing her evening rounds with the test subjects. Her snugglers, she called them. The creatures that weren't quite like the other animals in the research facility. The misfits. "How's Moss today?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. Rachel glanced up at me, her hand resting on Moss's shaggy head. "A bit contrary," she said, her smile warm. "Aren't you, big guy?" She stroked his fur gently, and Moss pulled away from her touch, trying to avoid her and having to get up to do so. "He looks like a chimp," I said, stepping closer. "But there's something off about him." Rachel nodded, her fingers tracing the contours of Moss's face. "It's his proportions," she judged. As she spoke, Moss's eyes flicked to mine, fixing me with a piercing stare. For a moment, and almost imperceptibly, his lips curled upward ever so slightly, almost like a smirk. Rachel seemed oblivious, continuing to stroke his fur. His face, his jawline, they're too flat. And his arms, they're shorter than they should be, not like a chimp's, more like us. It's strange, isn't it? It's like he's somewhere between us and them. There's something in him that feels familiar, but I can't quite place it. The way she eyed me stirred the uneasy feeling within. I didn't respond, my thoughts employing all of my attention. I just watched as she continued to stroke Moss's fur, her movements gentle, tender. She saw something in these creatures that no one else did. Something she desperately wanted to understand. What do you think they are? I asked, keeping my voice steady. Rachel frowned slightly, as if searching for the right words. I don't know, she said after a moment. They're not like anything I've ever seen before. They're not animals, not in the way we understand them. But they're not human either. There's something in between. She moved over to Marin's tank, tapping the glass slightly. Marin swam toward her, her sleek, dark body cutting through the water with ease. To anyone else, she would have looked like a glabrous baby seal. But I could tell what Rachel saw, the subtle differences that made Marin more than what she seemed. Look at her, Rachel said softly, her hands resting on the edge of the tank. She looks like a seal, but her flippers, they're too long, and her eyes, they're too big, focused. Marin blinked up at Rachel, her large round eyes following her every movement with unnerving precision. Rachel smiled, brushing the wind chimes hanging above the tank. Marin's head tilted in sync with the melody. Then she shifted her gaze to me, and for a fleeting second, her eyes seemed to mirror my own reflection back at me, filled with an awareness that shouldn't be possible. The soft melody filled the room, and Marin's movements slowed. She floated near the surface, her eyes half closing as if lulled by the sound. Rachel turned to me, her expression thoughtful. It's like they're more aware than we realize, more connected. They're always watching, always listening. Like they understand more than they let on, I offered carefully. Rachel nodded. Exactly. Sometimes I feel like they're trying to communicate, but not in a way we're used to. It's something deeper, something we're not attuned to. She moved toward Lumen, crouching down beside the strange creature. Lumen's pale, translucent skin shimmered faintly under the lab's lights, its long, thin limbs curled close to its body. It looked like a miniature cross between a seal and something more human, but Rachel didn't seem to mind the unsettling details that I couldn't ignore. Lumen is different from the others, she said, brushing her hand over the creature's side. Look at her arms. They're not flippers, not like Marin's. They're starting to look like hands, like a marmoset, maybe. I knelt beside her, my eyes narrowing as I studied Lumen's limbs. The delicate fingers twitched, and she extended her hand toward me, palm up. Her translucent skin pulsed faintly, a subtle glow that matched the quickening of my heartbeat. I glanced at Rachel, but she was focused on Lumen's form, unaware of the momentary connection we had shared. What do you think it means? I asked quietly, watching her face for any sign that she suspected the truth. Rachel shook her head. I don't know, but there's something about Lumen, something more. She looked down at the creature, her voice softening. Sometimes I feel like she's trying to tell me something, not with words, but with feelings. I swallowed, trying to push down the weight of what I knew. You think they're more than just experiments, don't you? Rachel looked at me, her expression serious. I know they are. They're not just animals, Rook. There's something in between, something we don't understand yet. I nodded slowly, not trusting myself to speak. I had known all along what they were, what we had made them into. But I couldn't bring myself to tell her, not yet. She was still young and innocent in all of this.
It's a good one.
Yes.
It's a really good one.
That was an intense one.
Yes. The continuation we asked for.
It was.
And delivered.
Yep. Delivered and delightful.
And delightful.
Delightfully delivered.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It seems like we picked up immediately where we left off on the previous story.
Yeah.
With the reaction that we finally do at the very end of this get the point of view character's name
Yes.
as Rook.
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 Yes.
Great name.
I love that name.
So, what do you think of the implementation of the wind chimes?
I liked it, and I wondered, does the wind chime keep people from morphing into their skinwalker form?
I couldn't tell exactly what it was setting up. I liked kind of the implications of that. My first reaction was like music soothes the savage beast kind of mentality. And not that we get any indication that they are savage either.
Who, Rook?
No, well, Rook, but also these skinwalkers, these almost chimeras that we get. And so I was wondering if it was just because of the melodic nature of it, or if it was more to do with, and we don't even necessarily know. Well, I guess we do through Rook that it is like calming, soothing in some way or another. So maybe it is that simple. Yeah.
I was wondering, like, what exact effect does the wind chime have?
Yeah, and why specifically a wind chime, I mean, again, I really like the idea. And something as simple as, you can just keep a wind chime around and just give it a little tap, and it's soothing for all of these creatures, which are somehow adorable and off-putting at the same time.
Yeah, I think they are so cute. I love the creatures.
Yes.
And that they're called snugglers.
Isn't that what Rachel calls them?
Yeah, that's what Rachel calls them.
Yeah.
I think that's adorable. And actually, that's something that I would call them.
Yeah. As our resident Rachel would say.
Yes.
Yes.
I would literally say that.
She would literally call them snugglers.
I literally would. And I would snuggle them. But it was also kind of like sad that they are kept in enclosures.
Yeah, this Plum Island facility.
Yeah. So, but at least they have somebody like Rachel who cares about them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
clearly she's very well invested into this, both just in her time and obsession, but also emotionally she seems invested in these creatures.
Exactly.
Oh, so we do find out that even in this flashback that Rook is already a skinwalker at this point.
Yes.
And we know that, I guess it waits till the very end to let us know that he's responsible for these creatures existing in the first place.
Yeah.
To some degree or another.
Yeah. So I wonder what these creatures are, because it seems that the skinwalkers made them into what they are. Because he's like, the secret, or what he doesn't want to tell Rachel is that he knows what they are, what we made them into.
Yeah. The only thing I can think is that might imply that there is the skinwalkers as its own thing.
Right.
And then there are these mutations because of the skinwalkers as the original thing. So I was wondering if we were setting them up to be sort of, like I mentioned, chimeras, and we still actually haven't met a real skinwalker.
I don't know. I tend to think that Rook is a skinwalker because he lives in skinwalker country.
Right, yeah.
And he has the wind chimes like everybody else in skinwalker country. But now looking back on the last story, it seems that the whale-like creature was one of these creatures like is in this lab.
Yeah, and maybe escaped or something like that.
Because it has like human-like hands and arms.
Yeah.
And
like fleshy skin. And also the word glabrous.
Right.
That I had to look that one up.
Yeah.
Definitely did, but it's exactly the right description for it. Glabrous. Yeah, smooth, no hair. Or the definition said, or down or anything like that. Just smooth skin.
I was thinking during all the descriptions of the animals that I would really like a drawing of these animals. So, ChillaxingYak, could you provide sketches or find a friend if you're not a drawer? I don't know. Find a friend to sketch them, because I really want to visualize them. The only one that I had an easy time visualizing was the sleek black seal creature, because I was literally like picturing that, and that was my favorite because I could like see it in my mind's eye, and I would like to see the others.
Yeah, and that's no shade on your descriptive work here.
No, it's not. It's just that was the one that was the most thing that I could imagine, because it was the most realistic, or the one that was most like creatures that I've seen.
Right. Yeah.
I just want to picture like the huge whale with the human like arms, but I can't even exactly wrap my mind around it. I would like a visual.
Yeah, and honestly, I might actually disagree. I might like leaving it up to my imagination for the time being, because I feel like whatever's in my head is far weirder than what someone might be able to put down on a sketch. But all that to say, I actually really did like the descriptive work and how we're combining these human characteristics with these various animals and how that is manifesting in each one. And it seems like it starts in they start developing hands and their eyes become more human and focused. So I just thought it was interesting moving through the different descriptions, and I feel like we get a kind of escalation of how far along each creature is developed into this phase, and just kind of seeing the progress of this transition is interesting to see.
Yeah, totally. I still want visuals though.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I would look at some visuals. Yeah, for sure, but it's very interesting
very interesting.
Yes.
I really enjoyed this story.
I really did too.
I was like, this is something that I can really sink my teeth into.
Yeah.
I would like for it to continue. I want a novel. I want this to be a novel.
I actually could see, there's, just like what we said last time, there's a lot of places this can go, and there's a lot of stories that could lead us into this set of stories that you have here, ChillaxingYak. So
yep.
Thank you so much for bringing us the continuation that we so desperately wanted from last time.
Thank you.
Thank you, ChillaxingYak.
Amazing. All right. Up next, we've got Nick to You with Untitled.
Yes. One untitled story by Nick to You.
That's right.
Also a continuation.
Yes. So what were your thoughts about this one?
I liked the premise of this, and I really like the name Judge Syrup.
Yeah.
But the premise of the story, the crime rate being so low, except for this one murder that we get, or that we are told about from Judge Syrup, right. I thought it was interesting that it's equally off-putting that crime is low as it is if it were really high.
Yeah.
Seems suspect.
Yeah.
It implies something deeper going on.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very intriguing.
Yeah. It's like, what is going on? And with the chimes as well. Yeah.
I was honestly a little disappointed at how much Arquin hated the wind chimes. I was like, oh.
I heard that at first. I was like, oh, that's going to make Matt sad.
I love wind chimes. Although I do imagine if everybody had them everywhere all the time and it was always windy, I'd probably get tired of them.
Probably. Or if it was like a single tone.
Actually, that didn't sound terrible either. Just a drone.
But a loud one. It was like dong, dong, dong. By the way.
Dong.
Yeah. That reminded me of whenever I used to live in Mongolia, and I went with my friend to a Buddhist temple, which was up in the mountains. And it was filled with orphans because that's where they put the orphans. They forced them to live in the monastery. And there were like these 3 monks that were like in their 20s or something that were running the place. And they were just pretty much forced to sit there and write Buddhist scripture in Sanskrit for like hours. Yeah. And it was like, to me, it was like super cool and exotic, you know? The friend I went with was Mongolian, so he was just like, man, whatever. But the kids, like some of them would fall asleep. And whenever like one of them would fall asleep, one of the monks had this mini gong, like a handheld one.
Yeah.
And he would go, and I watched him like walk up to the student's face that was on the table sleeping and just gong it like right in his face. And the kid would be like, ah. And he's like, get back to your scripture copying. And I
just transcribing scripture in Sanskrit.
Yes.
Wow.
I don't know if they were transcribing it or they were just like doing it from rote memory.
Oh.
I'm not sure. I really don't know. But anyway, I thought it was hilarious. It seemed like something you would see in a movie.
So that's the monk equivalent of nuns using rulers.
Yeah, to like slap the back of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like the same type of deal.
Wow. The gong is way cooler.
Yeah, way cooler. They gong in your face.
Weirdly enough, I could see that in this story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see
it
somebody.
It kind of seems to fit into this world.
Yeah, it does. Well, what did you think? What did you think of it?
So first of all, I was like, did I forget something that happened? Because whenever it references, oh man, that's so weird that somebody would kill someone out of boredom. That's unimaginable. I lied. We haven't had any report of him killing someone, right? Yet?
No, not that I know
not
of.
Yet. Okay.
And yeah, it seems like we're setting something up.
Yeah.
It's not clear what though.
Right. And I also found it interesting that he leaves being like, something is not right in this town. And the fact that there's only been one murder or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I just thought, you're one to talk. Like, it sounds like you're the one who's not right. You killed somebody out of boredom? Because it seems to reference like that, you know?
Yeah, it seems to read like that.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, is this actually a world where murder is a good thing? And the fact that there aren't many murders happening is pretty sus.
Well, and we learn about our character that Arquin was at one point mortal, but we learn now that they are, well, I guess we kind of knew that they were immortal from the previous story, but we didn't necessarily know that they weren't always this way. So they became immortal. So I'm wondering if that statement is sort of leading us towards how or why he is immortal. Oh, we also even get the line, were I still mortal, I would have a headache. And so, yeah, we clarify that. I have nothing to back it up, but I feel like that statement was to set us up learning either how or why they may be immortal now. But that could be me just projecting onto it as well. But you're right. It's not clear why this wouldn't be considered unimaginable to Arquin.
Right. Seems that he's killed someone out of boredom.
Seems that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But somehow in this story, that does not make him a bad guy.
Well, and I lied and said, no, that is unimaginable. So they can at least imagine it. So it doesn't necessarily imply that they did kill somebody out of boredom, but they can imagine that somebody would kill someone out of boredom.
Could be.
I don't know. I'm trying to make Arquin not someone who killed someone out of boredom. That's me doing mental gymnastics to try and get there.
Yeah, but then, he could be from a culture where killing someone isn't necessarily like the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
There are cultures like that.
Like what?
When I was in college, when I was in a cultural anthropology class, we did a lot of like comparative, cultural studies or whatever about what values, that different cultures had different value systems. And that there was this one culture, it was a tribe, and I do not remember exactly where it was. But in this tribe, the value, I forgot what the thing is that they valued, but they did not have a problem with stealing from other tribes or murdering people from other tribes. It was like celebrated. Yeah, so the thing that they valued was, I don't know, like getting more stuff for your tribe or something. I don't remember, but
yeah, maybe just something as simple as material possessions.
Yeah, but it was like the bottom line was they did not, for them, following an ethical code did not include not killing people.
So that wasn't considered unethical.
Right.
Yeah, I suppose it is cultural.
Yeah.
Like ethics could be construed as cultural.
Yeah. And it's also, and I can give an example, which is in like US academia, cheating is like a cardinal sin. Plagiarism.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like you can get kicked out of college, out of university, like all this stuff. But in a lot of other cultures I've experienced, cheating is actually not as bad. And the bigger value is helping your neighbor.
The resourcefulness of it. And
the communal nature of it.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, yeah, if you don't help your neighbor pass this test, then you're an asshole.
Yeah.
And so they're
gonna go to hell for it.
Yeah. So they far more value communal helping each other, that mindset, than making it on your own.
Hmm.
You know? And it's a whole, like, there are tons of behaviors associated with this.
Fascinating.
It is very fascinating.
Nick, I really liked this story. I like this as a continuation. It adds, it really gets us further into this world that you've built. Also, I just liked the language difference between Arquin and Judge Syrup. You can definitely see like just the way that Arquin speaks versus Judge Syrup. You can get kind of a disconnect in either who they are or like where they come from. Just the kind of formality of the way Arquin speaks and the very kind of straightforward, no nonsense way that Judge Syrup talks.
True.
So good characterization there. And the very last line, there was something quietly wrong here. I love that. I especially like that as a way to end this story.
Yes.
Leaves us asking questions. And I really like the qualifier that it is quietly wrong. That is cool.
That is very nice. Very nice touch.
Yeah. Wonderful story.
Wonderful story. Okay, we are now moving on to the presentation by Walker by Faith. Okay, so I actually had, because I was traveling, I was out on the range.
Yeah.
And I actually had my partner reading these stories to me as I was driving the horse. And whenever she read this, the presentation by Walker by Faith, I was laughing loudly because it was just hilarious. I loved this.
Yeah, I agree. Despite it being such dull content that they're speaking about, it's still somehow really engaging. And keeps you engaged throughout just in the escalation of the speakers just not having it by the end.
Yeah. It's hilarious. And honestly, I thought that at the end, he was going to realize that it was his own phone.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely thought it was going that way too.
Yeah.
And furthermore, I was thinking that maybe it was his phone. And given the dull content of what he was supposed to be presenting, he knew it was his phone and just flew off the handle so that he didn't have to talk about, what is it, TIFF or TIF work?
Yeah.
Like
it... or that he could just go on a rant and cuss everybody out.
Yeah, he just wanted this opportunity, and finally he's like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Today's the day.
Yeah.
And he set up somebody to call him.
Yeah, I love it. It's just so real. I feel like I've heard people go on rants like this, and I myself have gone on rants like this. And so it was very relatable.
Yes.
It made me laugh, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah. And I imagine it having someone else read it aloud to you. I imagine that lands a little different.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Especially because she was reading in a kind of like reedy voice. She's like, you know what? Is anyone sitting next to that guy? No. No one knows whose fucking phone that is with the fucking wind chimes. Is that what you're telling me? It was just hilarious.
That adds some color to the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, but yeah, the rant at the end, it spiraled out of control in a hurry. But yeah, it's a fun scene.
It is. It's a great scene.
And I like that you don't actually input any clues that there is a phone ringing. It's just the speaker. Like the only thing that we have here is what the speaker is saying. There's zero narration.
Yeah.
This is all spoken.
Yeah.
That just dawned on me that there is not a letter of narration in this. It is all dialogue or monologue, I guess.
I hadn't noticed that either.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. I like it even more now for that. And the fact that there is nothing like, a phone begins ringing off stage or whatever. There's no direction that something's happening. It's just the way that they're speaking. Yeah. Right. I really like that.
It reminded me of, this was like in the news for some reason, like a few years ago, where there was a orchestra or opera. I think it was an orchestra performance. And on the front row, there was, and of course, this would be super silent. And on the front row, there was an old guy and his phone was ringing and he didn't hear it.
Because he's an old man.
Because he was very old.
What is he doing at an orchestra concert? He can't hear them.
I don't know. But maybe just to watch them.
Okay.
But it kept going for a long time. And finally, the conductor stopped in the middle of the piece.
Wow.
Yes, he was so infuriated and probably yelled at that guy. And I honestly felt really sorry for the old man. I just felt so many emotions from reading that story. Because on the one hand, I felt furious with that guy, the old man. And I'm just like,
how dare you?
How obnoxious.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm just like, I can just feel so angry, so much fury. But at the same time, I feel fury at the conductor for shaming this old man who it wasn't his fault.
Yeah,
actually.
publicly shaming, no less. Yeah.
Yeah, it reminded me of that.
Yeah, I can totally see why.
Yeah.
It lines up very well.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody fly off the handle like this because of a phone.
Yeah, this guy definitely seemed to have some pent up rage.
There's some, well, I mean, talking about, what are they, tax incentive, something.
And who you find out in the end, he actually doesn't give a shit about it.
Right. So again, that further made me think like, whoa, maybe this was all intentional.
Yeah.
Maybe this is his phone or somebody's a plant out in the audience.
Yeah.
Doing this very intentionally. So our poor speaker doesn't have to go on and on with something.
Right. It was hilarious.
Yes. No, that's a fun story. And very, very unique format.
Yeah.
Just all monologue.
Right.
Yeah.
It was excellent.
It was excellent.
I love me a chuckle.
Yes, there were plenty of chuckles to go around on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, all right. Thank you, Walker by Faith.
Thank you, Walker by Faith.
And moving on to Successful Read 6361 with Strangers.
Yes.
Yeah, this one seems like a very accurate portrayal of, what's the word? Social anxiety.
I was going to say performance anxiety.
Or even just social anxiety, just being anxious around people.
Mm-hmm.
But also, performance anxiety as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
However, we did get a comment from Successful Read on the story.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually kind of surprised me that it was more about being spontaneous. I was going for an intrusive thought that just kind of turned into an action where everyone also took a risk of opening up to the people around them. So it is kind of both. It's the social anxiety aspect, but also an intrusive thought that just kind of turned into an action. So that kind of spontaneity of just doing something. And then suddenly you find that spontaneity landed you in a situation where if you have social anxiety, it might make you feel this way.
Right.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah, that is.
And it certainly hits those emotional points of kind of what that social anxiety feels like.
Mm-hmm. I did relate to it somewhat from, coffee shop days, like poetry. What do they call those?
Readings?
Yeah. Sure. Those types of things, and having to get up there and read your poem. And I remember the first one I ever did at a coffee shop was called Ode to a Bar of Soap.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And it was sung while my friend Jennifer played Smoke on the Water.
Oh.
Very quietly next to me as I read Ode to a Bar of Soap. Ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding, 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 ding.
Ding, 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 ding.
That is the right one, right? Smoke on the water. Doom, doom, doom. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but so I can kind of relate to it. I've been there. It was scary. All the eyes looking at me. But what exactly was happening here? Was it a performance or?
I wasn't entirely sure. I wasn't entirely sure what was going on. I almost got support group vibes. Just the way everybody's sitting around and kind of introducing themselves. It could also be something as mundane, something as simple as a book club.
Yeah.
You got to go around and introduce yourself to everybody, which we did for our book club recently. And the icebreaker question was, what is your favorite vegetable? What is your favorite vegetable?
Me?
Yeah.
Broccoli.
Broccoli?
What about you?
I said radish.
That's unique.
It's the vegetable of the day. We're growing radishes.
Oh.
So I was like, I like radishes.
They are good.
Okay. Maybe it's like a single mingle. They're all single people.
Yeah, because it says all single lives of their own at the beginning. Men and women.
Yeah, maybe that's cluing us into they're all single.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like a single mingle, and that raises the stakes even more.
Right.
Yeah, that certainly would be an anxious place to be in, although exciting just the same. Yeah.
It does sound exciting. Take me there, successful Reed.
Thank you so much, successful Reed. Thank you for your story there.
Thank you, successful Reed.
Certainly gave me the anxiety.
Yeah. Okay, so we are now going to move on to The Rose of Contentment Part 2 by Steve Living Room.
Obviously a continuation to The Rose of Contentment, which we got 2 weeks ago.
I loved that this switched to the point of view of the girl who got the flower.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that idea, that concept. I put down here the bro sisterhood of the traveling not Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was funny that how it also kind of like is deprecating to the guy in a funny way. Like with a huge shit-eating grin on his face and kind of describing him as it creeps her out being hit on by older men or something. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, and also he doesn't live up to any of these expectations right away, because he just immediately just moves on and is gone.
Yeah.
Like not hitting on her in any way other than, I guess, just handing this not Rose off to her.
Right.
She was prepared to gently put him in his place. Yeah.
But she didn't have to.
Didn't have to, because he
just shuffled off.
He just shuffled. Yeah.
Yeah. But I thought that was really clever, putting us into the perspective of Jill.
Yeah, and we moved through the whole interview process on a beach.
Yeah.
What a place to have an interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we do get a logical reason why.
Right. But also, when she started describing, when she's like, behind me, you can see 3 buildings I am targeting. I thought that she was actually like a terrorist or something. And that she was like going to choose one of them to put a bomb in or something like that. I literally thought that's where it was going. She's like, this one has this many people in it, like victims. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. And the word targeting really does imply.
Yes. I was like, wow. Because that would be a really funny twist. Like, because we're all like, oh, how sweet. He made the day of this girl. But then we find out that this girl is like a mass murderer.
Oh my God.
You know? That's where I went with it.
Oh, wow. If that's where this story had gone, that
would be hilarious. And that actually gives me an idea for my next story.
I was going to say, that's such a unique idea.
Yeah, that would be great.
Oh, man.
It seems to me that definitely Steve Living Room either is a real estate agent or is married to one or has some experience in the real estate world.
Yeah, this all seems very well communicated. Like Steve Living Room has a good idea of like certain aspects of real estate and calling them shared spaces, both mixing commercial and residential. The interview played off very realistically.
Yeah.
The part where they're basically getting down, she's got the job and they're discussing salary. I really liked the part. It's like, what do you think, or why do you think you deserve more than what was advertised? And she replies with, because I am more than advertised. That was
Dang, Jill.
Dang, Jill.
Feeling herself.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was a good line and a good turn of phrase there. I thought it interesting. The whole content and context of this story, she is speaking of revitalizing this area and these buildings. But at the same time, that revitalization effort could potentially price out the current occupants from the changes that are coming.
Did it mention that, or did you just kind of come to that conclusion?
It's kind of you could imply that you could be potentially forcing somebody out of this space because of your revitalization efforts by making it more expensive to rent this space.
Possibly.
And also because they're moving away from renting the space and into owning the space. So I thought it interesting that we ended in one of the shops in the Ethiopian restaurant in this building and that the rose gets left there.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if that's kind of a direction that we may be moving towards, because if we're going to follow the rose, the not rose, then it's going to be in this Ethiopian restaurant that's about to undergo this revitalization. Obviously this will be well down the road. It's not going to happen that day.
Right.
But I don't know. I just thought it was interesting.
I think it is a really cool idea to follow the rose.
I do too.
Like, okay, then who picks it up? An Ethiopian server? And then are they going to be like, that bitch is coming in here trying to price me out or whatever, however you say it.
Yeah.
And then talk about like the destitution that she's put them in or something like that, you know?
Well, yeah. And kind of continuing, how does this not rose change them?
Yeah.
Oh, and that was one other thing. I felt like there's a bit of a missed opportunity for playing up the effect of the not rose on, is it Jill? Yeah, Jill. Because you had that she killed the first interview. Like she did really well there, but that was before she had this rose. I felt like that was an opportunity to be like, yeah, she did fine in the first interview, but maybe in the second one, because she has this rose, this not rose, she kills this one. I feel like that was an opportunity you could really play up what the rose is doing for
Well, apparently
Jill.
it's passing on the shit-eating grin.
That's all it's doing. It's just a shit-eating grin rose.
Because it says Jill packed up her stuff with her own shit-eating grin.
Yeah, so maybe it is just...
So, and also, Jill answered the questions well and also asked a few of her own, feeling more confident as it went on.
Yeah.
So maybe the rose is passing on not only the shit-eating grin, but also confidence.
And with you, I really like the idea of following this rose around.
Yeah,
it's a very
I love
fun,
that.
It's a very fun tale.
And I also like the idea of just giving a rose to a random person because it will somehow make their day.
Well, thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you for the continuation of the not rose.
Yeah, and it was very thought-provoking.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
All right. Our next story is by
Mexican with chimes.
Chimes.
Yes. Okay. So this is also a continuation.
It is. Yes.
I liked where she took it to it was like a little bit supernatural the first time because even though she had thrown away the letter, it still appeared.
Yeah, it made its way back.
Yeah, it made its way back. But this takes it to another level of supernaturalness.
Yes. I really liked that.
Yeah, me too.
Especially it's such unique supernatural elements, at least unique to us Anglo folk, where we might not know the words. These are these Aztec?
To me, it looks like Nahuatl, but I don't know.
You're exactly right. Yes,
yeah.
Nahuatl, and I love the sound of Nahuatl, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but Cholotli.
You just fucked up.
Is it Cholotli?
You fucked up.
Is it Cholotli?
Actually, I don't know.
I just keep fucking up.
Yeah, I have no idea.
But just using this god of death.
Yeah.
Absolutely was not prepared for it to go there.
Yeah.
And such a great twist. And it's giving us an explanation for how the letter even made it to the daughter in the first place.
Yeah, and that is a good explanation because we are like, well, how did that happen? And this is kind of like the backstory. This is how it happened.
Yeah. Yeah, left unanswered in the first story and clarified here.
I like this part made me laugh where it's like the god of death in a cemetery seems a little too on the nose, don't you think?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, first of all, that's funny. And second of all, that's definitely something that So Mexican would say.
This doesn't feel, I can't
like
say,
someone else.
Yeah, this doesn't feel like someone not Kim.
No.
But
she got a sharp tongue, that one.
She does. And I really like to follow up that line. He smirked, "You truly are her daughter."
Yeah. So it's like, oh, that's where you got it. Okay. And I also looked at the mental image of, I was also just trying to like picture this god and what he looks like with the dog head and everything.
I got, is it Anubis?
Yeah.
Vibes?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
But you know what? Who knows? They could be ancient descendants of Egyptians.
Could be.
In fact, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say they probably are. Hello, cradle of humanity. You know what I'm talking about? Which I know is not in Egypt, it's in Iraq, but it's again a similar area. But anyway, yeah, so it was exciting and it took it from a very like kind of like reflective, sentimental place to a kind of intriguing place.
Yeah.
You know, about this god of death.
And even a kind of hopeful place as well. Moving away from this kind of reminiscence and sort of looking more towards the daughter's future and what this holds. And now she has this knowledge, and whether I really like the way that it ends and he disappeared or I awoke from my dream. Yeah. I'm still not sure which is true.
Yeah.
I think that ambiguity is a great place to leave us after an interaction with the god of death.
I do like that.
Yeah.
It does make it very mysterious.
Yeah. Yeah. Great direction. I was not prepared for that. And certainly hit me by surprise. And oh man, I really dug that.
Yeah.
I dug this direction that you went.
It was fantastic.
It was.
Crumb.
Crumb.
Okay, so I just saw this.
Well, all right. So this is AJ's Return by Richie's Posers.
Gloves off, friends.
Gloves off. So yeah, we did get permission from Richie to go hard on this one. So we're pulling out all the stops. Which, do you know the origin of that phrase? Pulling out all the stops? Like what it's referring to?
I don't know. It kind of makes sense to me. Like there's things that you normally stop at, but you're eliminating them. So you're going without caution. But no, I don't know the origin.
I actually stumbled across this just in my music career.
Oh.
It's referring to organs.
Oh.
A pipe organ has stops.
OMG.
And whenever you pull out all the stops, you get the largest sound out of the pipe organ.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a pipe organ.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, they're physical stops.
Wow, good to know.
So yeah. So now we all know that.
Mystery solved.
Well, all right. So since this is gloves off, we're just going to basically take it from the top.
We're just going to lay into you.
We're going to lay into it.
Just joking. It's not going to be that bad.
No.
So in the first paragraph, I think that you could have made the sentences longer, because sometimes having like the short sentences with like the short little details is a good thing, but I feel like you overdid it a little bit. So the Ford Taurus slowed and parked in front of the faded blue house trimmed in white. The Chevy looked right at home next to the porch circled the house.
The sea air.
The sea air and sand had peeled the paint, blah, 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 the natural wood.
The house looked quiet. Yeah.
You know, I feel like you could have condensed that to like 2 sentences and it would have sounded better, because after that many, it just sounds a bit ludicrous.
It's a little repetitive too, especially it's always, the noun verb.
Right.
The noun verb.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Because that's like a style choice. But in order for it to be effective, it can't be overused.
And I feel like it probably shouldn't be right at the start either. To do that, it could be something like you could change to the style and it would demarcate itself a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think maybe to start off with it is a little tough.
Yeah,
but it does. So. The first paragraph is clearly setting us in this scene very well. But I agree, kind of condense it down and give us some variety in the sentence structure. Yeah.
Right.
A similar thing in the third paragraph, Rasputin laid down across the dashboard and purred. The part where Aurora turned the key back 1 click, the engine shut off, but Van Halen was still singing along to the key in ignition chime. She turned the key back to the 2nd click and the chime snapped off. I feel like that's all one sentence, or it should all be one sentence. I wrote, you could write it something like Aurora turns the key back 1 click, killing the engine. Van Halen still singing along to the key and ignition chime until she turned the key again, silencing the chime. You can condense all that down if you want to keep all of those various elements that you're setting up, and just make sure that the elements that you are using are lending to either the characters or to the plot directly.
Right.
But it is introducing us to that she likes Van Halen, and which kind of we pay off later in the story as well. So I like that inclusion of Van Halen there.
Okay, so on the next part that you have highlighted, you say, when it says just some beach grass and tide markers, you say incomplete sentence. I argue that it is fine to have an incomplete sentence in creative writing. So I feel like this can be a style choice, and it can definitely bring like focus and emphasis. I don't think that grammatical rules have to be followed in such a case, but I do think that having 2 incomplete sentences side by side takes away from the effect. So I think that you could just make it 1 long incomplete sentence. Just some beach grass and tide markers, comma, nothing that indicated any sign of regular foot traffic. Because that, I mean, if you add a comma, yes, grammatically that is an incomplete sentence and a comma splice.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's effective.
That will be effective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even just the way we read it, the way you rhythmically move through that sentence, you wouldn't be inclined to notice it as an incomplete sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a comma splice for that matter.
Totally.
I really liked the line or the part where we get to her heart dropped and the lump in her throat swelled to the size of a grapefruit.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that as an effect of letting us know how AJ is handling this encounter and just how emotional it is for her. Is it swole or is it swelled?
It is swelled.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that one actually did catch me. Like it kind of removed from the punch of that we wanted because I was like swole.
Because I feel like swole is only used for like in the gym getting swole.
Yeah, getting totes swole, bro.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, lump in her throat swelled to the size of a grapefruit. Again, I really do like this. I actually feel like that sentiment of the lump swelling in her throat might be more effective if we get that at the end of the paragraph, and we get all of the line 8 years hadn't been long enough to erase the memory of her father's voice hollering for her to come to dinner. I think that right at the start, like right after she hears his voice, we get that, and then the lump in her throat starts to swell up. I think that could be a good way of letting us know just how these emotions run through your head.
Yeah.
Right away, like immediately, it's just in the flash of a second, you get all these memories, and then the physical emotional response of the lump swelling in her throat.
Yeah.
I think maybe kind of turn those around a little bit. Could be really effective.
So on the next part, which you said about combining those sentences, the voice was older now, a little gruff and tired sounding, but still unmistakably the voice of Fred Ward. So if you wanted to combine those sentences, I feel like you could say the voice was older now, semicolon, a little gruff and tired sounding, comma, but still unmistakably the voice of Fred Ward. Yeah.
Or even, I don't know, I really love the M dash. I feel like it's less pretentious than a semicolon. And they kind of serve a similar purpose.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of the M dash. Oh, it was a little unclear. Aurora turned and saw her father walking up to the house with a bucket in one hand and a piece of sun-bleached driftwood worn smooth by the waves and sand.
In the other.
In the other hand.
It should have said, I was waiting for it to say in the other.
I was literally like hanging on like, what's in the other hand? What? And it just never comes.
I loved the part about little women in tiny fur coats.
Yes.
Oh my God.
That was a perfect description.
Oh my God.
That is so cute.
I loved that so much. That was adorable.
This sounds like probably something that maybe Richie Posner either says or has been told this before, because that is brilliant. Wonderful.
Oh, I love it so much.
I love that.
I love it so much.
If you made that up, Richie Posner, you need to trademark that. Like yesterday.
It's fantastic. Okay, so one thing this is just something that I would change, I would edit if I were editing this, is the word inside in this paragraph starting with Fred. Fred set the bucket and the driftwood down outside the door and headed inside. Aurora returned to the car and grabbed the cat off the dashboard and her purse from the passenger seat before heading inside. I think that's redundant. So I wouldn't end both, like it's a paragraph of two sentences and both of them end with headed inside or heading inside. Yeah. So I would just reword that. And maybe you could say, Aurora returned to the car and grabbed blah, 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 before following him in.
At the end of this paragraph beginning with Fred stood and went to the kitchen, I felt like the last sentence, the door creaked as it closed and latched into its place. I don't feel like that sentence is adding anything to our characters, to the plot, to our direction. I feel like that you could probably just axe that sentence. How do you feel about it?
I don't mind it. The only problem for me with it is that it is another long list of short sentences.
Yeah.
Of just little actions. Aurora looked around. He hadn't been lying. Postcards covered the place. She could hear the clinking of the mugs. He set the kettle on the wood stove. The door creaked as it closed. I feel like these could be combined.
It seems pretty consistent for Richie that these paragraphs where we're getting the description of the environment are typically in these simple sentences. It could just be a styling choice.
Yeah,
Richie could be doing this stylistically.
But I think that to make it fewer and far between makes it more effective.
Yeah.
Stylistically.
I think adding some variety in the sentence
Yeah.
structure helps keep us engaged
exactly.
with the setting. Since it seems most common for this to come up when you're setting the stage.
Yeah.
I have all kinds of music terms that I want to throw out that probably won't make any sense, but it's like follow the line, like follow the through line, and don't break it up. Think horizontally, don't think vertically. These are all music terms. Like think, you can't see my hands. I'm like, think horizontally.
He's thrashing wildly.
I don't have a better way to describe it other than just follow your line and try not to get too bogged down in this little slice of vertical space and then this vertical slice of space. Give it all a direction.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think that will help move us through these moments where you're setting this stage. We do eventually get the explanation for why Dad hadn't actually written to Aurora down here. I just wanted to give you time. I didn't want to say the wrong thing and make you never want to come back, which I think is that's a great explanation for his reasons for not writing sooner.
I really appreciated that explanation because it was kind of a mystery to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like his qualification. I didn't want to say the wrong thing and make you never want to come back. I like that it's kind of couched in this fear that Dad has for potentially scaring Aurora away forever.
Yeah.
So I think that's an excellent explanation for his actions there.
And very good depiction of the male psyche.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Richie.
Thank you, Richie.
And thank you for giving us permission to try this out and see how this works.
Yeah.
And I suppose let us know if this was helpful.
Right.
Or if it's
let
just,
us know if it was helpful or if it was just
too much.
Gratuitous.
Too gratuitous. Yeah. Okay. Moving on.
Yeah.
Who's our next story?
Gwen 2 by Nathaniel McLean. Nathaniel McLean.
Nathaniel
McInlane.
Nathaniel.
So
another continuation in a week full of continuations.
Yep. So what do you think about this one?
I'm going to be honest with Daniel. I think your first two entries were stronger than this one. And I think the thing that put me off on this one was the information dump that we get from John to Gwen about his past and his involvement with the this outbreak and everything. I would have preferred that you wait until they're in the hospital to give us this information and maybe give it to us in a more dynamic fashion, like a little push from Gwen and a little push back from John. Make it a little bit more fluid. Don't just make it such a one-sided monologue from John to Gwen. Beyond that, I think it fits in very well with your other two stories, and we can definitely see our characters moving closer together in general, and we really start to see the trust that Gwen is placing in John, especially near the end.
Yeah, I like the dialogue between them. I don't know why I liked this line, but I like it when he's like, "Fucking go." Oh yeah, that reminded me of this one time that somebody said that to me. That's probably why I liked it. But I liked that because it seemed very relatable.
Yeah, all of the dialogue feels natural, like this is what people would actually say. It doesn't feel contrived in any way.
Yeah.
It also just the gratuitous exclamation points.
Oh yeah.
That reminds me of we had to play a piece in orchestra in school when I was going to. Well, I went to Texas Tech University, so I was in the orchestra out there, and we had to play a piece by this composer that just couldn't write any dynamic markings other than forte.
Oh wow.
And variations of forte. So it was the quietest notation that we had was loud.
Wow.
And the loudest notation that we had was loud times 7.
Wow.
It was ludicrous.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
It really
just
wasn't.
getting to blast constantly.
No, because it's you can only get so loud.
Okay.
You can only get so loud. And
so basically you're just changing the meaning of the word forte to piano.
Yeah, and then fortissimo and fortissimo.
Right.
And they're okay, this is fortissimo.
Yeah, how loud can we actually get here?
So, but just the gratuitous exclamation marks. I'm here for it personally. I like the unconventional nature of the whole thing in general.
I really liked the first line as well. Whack. The wedge of my axe buries itself deep into the neck of the last runner. I really did like that. That one immediately like caught my attention. And I was like, oh, he made it out. He made it out of that impossible situation.
Yeah. And very effectively pulling us back into where we left John. Yeah, because it wasn't hard for me to get into this story, to get started back in. It's like, okay, where were we? It's like, oh, right.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I really liked about it.
Yeah, you set us up really well. And also with Gwen peeking out of the doorway, still holding the shotgun. Yeah, it's very effective at getting us right back into where we left off with these two characters.
It really is.
Yeah, if I could leave you with one word of advice, it would be show, don't tell. So show us what John is talking about to Gwen with the backstory. And don't be so eager to get us all the details. Like, I would say withhold some of that.
Yeah.
Like, make us wait for some of that information.
Yeah.
And make it pay off in a meaningful way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but enjoyable.
Absolutely. Yeah. And still has plenty of places to go.
Yes.
So keep going. Keep going
exciting.
with it. Yes. Very exciting.
Shall we move on to our last, but certainly not least?
The ever elusive
Mio Mersoy.
With cause and effect.
Cause and effect.
You got this one just under the wire, Mia.
Yeah. You were close.
This is close.
So close.
Yeah.
We talked about just not talking about it only to punish you for being so under the wire.
So under the wire and still not leaving any comments.
Yeah. Well, that kind of made sense though because it was posted so under the wire.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, fine. We'll forgive it this time.
Forgive it this time and not the other times.
Yeah.
Or the future times.
Or ever again.
Ever again.
Ever again.
Thoughts?
I really do like this story. I do think it was a little improbable.
A little absurd. Yeah.
That they would be all the way to the sentencing phase of this trial, that we would only just now be getting Max's side of the story, where we get some crucial information about some killer bees. All of the points that you hit, he left his 1-year-old son inside a garbage container, and after closing container, he threw a rock at the store window and fled without looking back. I actually did think that him throwing the rock at the window seemed odd.
Yeah.
Like to the point, it's like, okay, here's where we're setting up the twist.
Right. There's got to be a reason.
Yeah, there's a reason he threw that rock.
Besides just throwing away his baby. Because if you really just want to throw away your baby, you're not going to draw attention to yourself.
Right. But at the same time, I was still like, what garbage this man is. Like, you should put yourself in the trash can, and that'd be better. That would be more fitting.
Totally.
Yeah, it still hit that nerve of just like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
Hell no, you do not do that.
Asshole.
Yeah.
But in the end, it actually makes sense. And you know what?
Justified.
It reminds me of a story that my mom used to always tell me about whenever she was like 10 and her little sister was 8 and her littlest sister was like 2, that they were on a family vacation and they accidentally stumbled upon a beehive.
Oh.
And or maybe even the youngest one was maybe like 1. They stumbled upon a beehive and it started stinging them, all of them.
Oh, yeah.
And they started sprinting away, the whole family, my grandma, grandpa, mom, and aunts. Well, not the 1-year-old because she couldn't. But,
couldn't sprint.
Yeah, but my grandpa was holding her and they were sprinting away and they sprinted past their car and my grandpa opened the back seat, threw the baby in, shut the door, and then they all kept sprinting.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
This is exactly that story.
know.
Are you related to Rachel Mihomersoy?
Seriously, because it really is exactly like that story.
It's just like that.
I know. It's
because
crazy.
you wouldn't leave a baby in a car like that either.
Yeah, and it was hot outside. Like you wouldn't just put your baby in there. But they're
Very
like, the
problematic,
baby is going to die if we do not. Like we can get stung and it's going to suck ass, but the baby will die.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And
especially if there's any sort of anaphylaxis or anything like that.
And so they just like ran around. Like, I don't know how they eventually lost the bees, if they like ran into a river or what they did. But anyway, Isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
Mio Soy, do you know my past? Do you know my mom's past?
Are you Rachel's past?
Are you my past?
Yeah, that's wildly close.
Yeah. But it makes sense. And even the fact that he threw the window, because at first you would think, okay, put your baby in the trash can, but then you'll come back for it. But then when you're like, well, I might die.
Yeah.
And then no one will ever find my baby.
Yeah. Well thought out.
Yeah.
If nothing else. Yeah.
Very quick on his feet, this Max.
Yeah.
This Max.
We shall call him Mad Max.
Let's call him Mad Max.
Because he ran like mad.
Right.
And now he's mad because he's in court.
And he's also Max.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it is possible. I don't really know how the court system works in everywhere in the world, but it's possible that there's places where they don't ask any questions. Because it is very improbable that you would get all the way to the sentencing phase, never having pled your case.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It might be possible that in some places they're like, you're going to prison, son. We got all the proof. Nothing that you can say can change our minds. I
don't know. I just, the fact that we're in any kind of a courtroom just makes me think like this, we probably wouldn't come to this point, but
we wouldn't probably.
I just wanted to say this is what are the fifth story or something like that from Mio Mirsoy. You certainly have a style about you that really comes out each time. And I actually have to say mad kudos to you that you can actually stick to this style, to even if it's like a plan that you may have for a series of stories on our podcast. If this is all like, if you're planning all this out, even if not, just your consistency throughout on each of these stories. I wanted to point you towards a collection of short stories by Andy Weir called The Egg and Other Stories. They all play very similar to Mio Mirsoy's stories because they're all just like, they have their own little twists to them. Yeah.
Interesting.
They're not all necessarily related to each other, but you can kind of glean that there is similarities in the styles between all of them as well. Interesting.
And it does seem like they're all, at least the ones I can think of right now, are kind of like parables.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. They seem parabolic.
Yeah. Because the first story was very satirical.
Yeah, but there was...
With Tamara. I'll never forget Tamara. Tamara's boyfriend.
Yes.
Yeah. That one was amazing.
That one was. But still the moral of that story was never judge a book by its cover or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you could apply some sort of adage to any of these stories and come away. Exactly. And this is also kind of that same idea. Don't judge this book by its cover. Right. The cover being... I threw my baby in a trash can and threw a rock at a window, but you don't know why I did that. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, don't be too quick to judge. Right. Thank you, Mio Mirsoy. I really liked this story, even though it's improbable. It's still very well told, and it got the right emotions going, I think. It is. It is quite well told. That is all of our stories. Woo! For this week. Yes. Great job, everybody. Yes, great job. Shout out to everybody who submitted a story. We've got ChillaxingYak. Thank you for your continuation. And thank you for providing us the continuation that we so desperately asked for from last episode. Yes. So thank you. Also, Nick to you, Walker by Faith, Successful Read 6361, Richie Posier, thank you for giving us permission to try out something a little bit different, even though it may be a little bit helter-skelter. But helter-skelter. Also, Mexikim, thank you. Steve Living Room and Mio Mirsoy. Thank you, everybody. Thank everybody. Thank everybody. Everybody be thanked. Everybody deserves thanks. Same goes for everybody submitted comments as well. You know who's missing. I know. I didn't confirm this, but I also think ChillaxingYak might be conspicuously missing this week as well. Oh. Yeah. It'd be nice to see some comments from you. That's nice because I wouldn't want Mio Mirsoy to be alone in the sin bin. Okay, sin bin. All right, as you say. And that moves us straight on into episode 9. Yes. So excited. So our prompt for episode 9 is an image prompt. And the image is, you can find it, link to it on episode 9 under our subreddit. But I have it described as Flower woman in profile. And the words for next week are bless, adoption, defend, employee, and heir. I didn't even notice.
Employee.
Yeah, we had employee this week,
Yeah.
and now we have employee.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to change it, but I was like, nah, it's done now.
Yep.
So,
Too late.
too late. So, yeah, employee gets double duty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Got a definition for bless?
I do. So, bless. Bless first thing that comes to mind is bless your heart.
Oh, bless your heart.
Bless your little heart.
Bless your sweet summer heart.
Yeah, which according to some people is Southern speak for fuck you.
Yeah. A euphemism for fuck you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you didn't bring a dish to the potluck. Oh, bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
Yeah. Okay, it can also mean well, bless your heart can also just be like, it's almost like a, oh, you poor thing. Or in Mongolia, it's Hurhiemten, which means poor animal. You poor animal.
You poor animal.
Yeah. Okay, but bless can also be like a spiritual religious thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and blessed.
Blessed.
That's when like people are like, how are you? And they're like, blessed.
We got some Southern people around us.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
And then also bless, it could just be like gifted with, I'm blessed with, I'm gifted with.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, usually it implies that kind of being gifted
Yes,
by
exactly.
higher power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something being given to you.
Or bestowed.
Yeah.
Adoption.
Adoption. So this is whenever when it's talking about kids, it's whenever you take that child and make it your own, or an animal. Or we can have like textbook adoptions, you know?
No, I don't. Textbook adoptions?
Yeah.
What does
Like
that mean?
adopting material. It's like adopting a practice, adopting material. Like you make it your own.
Okay.
It just means to make something your own.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, make something or someone
your own.
Your own or of your own.
Yes, or under your care.
Yeah. What about defend?
Defend is the opposite of offend. We've got defensive driving.
Mm-hmm.
We've got defending, protecting, defend, protect.
Yeah.
You could be defensive, which means that you're constantly trying to protect yourself from like imaginary attacks.
Yeah. You could defend somebody by standing up for them or standing up against somebody.
Yep.
Yeah.
You could also use it in a sports context, like defending the goal.
Yeah, or you're on defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do we need to define employee? We went to such lengths to define employee.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, it is someone who is employed.
Right.
Yes. And air.
Okay, so this is a substance which is all around us.
Yes.
As we speak. Isn't it oxygen? No.
It's actually primarily nitrogen.
OMG. Nitrogen.
Yeah. Oxygen, nitrogen, and some other trace gases, but primarily oxygen and nitrogen.
It's also the name of the club where I was punched in the face once.
Air? Club Air?
Yep.
Is that in Austin?
No.
No. Is it in Mongolia?
Yes.
Is this the one that you took Kim to when she was out there?
No. Okay, so air can also be like putting on airs. She had an air of sophistication. Is putting on airs not spelled like that?
I was just wondering that.
Because now that you're looking at me like that, I'm starting to question it.
No, you're exactly right. Putting on airs.
Okay, yeah. That's got to be in the plural. I don't think you can say putting on an air.
Putting on one air.
No, yeah, you can't do that. But like you can have an air of sophistication, an air of whatever. It's just like your aura, like your vibe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Could be an airhead.
Right. Or you could eat an airhead.
Yeah.
Even
It's
better.
a very flexible word.
It really is.
It's got a lot of places it wants to go.
And air, like airtime. We're going to air our episode on Friday.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Air's a cool word.
It is a cool word.
It's a cool word.
Well, you know, it's such a intangible thing that it makes sense that it would have such a fluid meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Such fluid meaning.
As it is a fluid.
It's a fluid. It's a gaseous fluid.
Yar. Well, if you want to be like these wonderful writers and submit your story to You Write, head on over to our subreddit at reddit.com/r/youwritepod.
If you're unable to submit a story this week, that's fine. You can help out by reading and commenting on other people's stories.
Each time you post a story or leave a comment on someone else's submission, you increase your chances of having your story read on the podcast. And actually, I wanted to say we've had some really great participation, but this week I didn't want to rule out reading ChillaxingYak or if Mio Mersoy submitted a story. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to rule out not reading theirs on the podcast just because they hadn't participated in the comments as much. So
yeah.
I'm trying to give everybody as much of a fair chance of being read aloud on the podcast before we start circling back and giving people a second chance. So.
Right. I like that. You can also reach us at youwritepod@gmail.com.
And if you like our show and want to help support us, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/youwrite.
If you are unable to donate, that's just fine. You can help us by sharing the podcast with other writers and non-writers alike.
Yeah. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. You know, it's like a bell or a star or a join button or something. Yeah. Hit that so that you don't have to like go find us every time.
Right.
And then you just know it's there.
It's like easy.
Yeah. The podcast, it's just like right there.
Right.
In your little feed, you know?
No. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah. Go do that. Go subscribe. Go subscribe. Subscribe.
No. Yeah.
Subscribe.
No. Yeah.
Subscribe.
Yeah. Also, be sure to leave us a rating and review in your podcatcher of choice.
We will eventually read a review on the podcast.
Yeah, one of these days.
And I've been staying busy. We may have a review, and I just don't know it.
Probably not, though.
Probably not.
Let's be honest.
I feel like I would be notified.
Yeah, you probably would.
I probably would.
You know what? I've already come to peace with the fact we don't have any reviews.
We just never will.
Oh, that's fine. I'm ready. I'm letting it go. If it happens, it happens. If not, we're fine.
It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And remember, join us next week on You Write,
a podcast where you write. I'm gonna wash that man right out of my hair. I'm gonna wash that man right out of my hair. 10 respect points for whoever can name that musical.
See y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye.